Hey friends, we're back with another episode.
Woohoo!
Woo! 3 in a row. Let's go. That rhymed. Okay. So my name is Jason,
My name is Drew.
and today we're doing a mental health check.
Mental health check.
This has been another very highly requested topic as well. Which totally makes sense to me because mental health is something that a lot of people are talking about. In society in general, which is awesome because it's super important and should have been the entire time. But here we go, right?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of times it's like a generational thing to not check in on your mental health because obviously
Mm-hmm.
like older generations weren't as like aware and cognizant of it. I think it's a good thing that younger generations are like really prioritizing mental health because it is very important.
Yeah, 1000%. So, okay, so I guess if we were to start off with like where we're at, like, or where we started with our own mental health personally, I think I've always had anxiety, and growing up too, we've looked back and been like, oh yeah, like she definitely did, because I
Yeah.
grew up like super painfully shy, and the thought of people having to look at me would make me sick to my stomach. And whereas Drew like doesn't care what anyone thinks about her, is very, it's very easy for her to go into spaces where she doesn't know anyone, or you know what I mean,
hmm
like stuff
Yeah.
like that. Whereas like,
Yeah, I think yours was a very aggressive social anxiety more than
mhm,
anything. And then also just regular too. But I think social anxiety is like what exacerbated it a lot, having
yeah,
to
and
like
I
be
think,
around unknown people.
yeah, and then I think too, like because we grew up so close in age, like Drew always made me like go do things I didn't want to do, like let's go hang out with friends at recess instead of like
Yeah.
sit here and do nothing, because I
Yeah.
was so uncomfortable around people, that I can't even imagine like what kind of kid I would have ended up being had I not had Drew there being like, get up and come over here, and play with us or whatever.
Yeah, especially when we got a little bit older, like into high school and stuff.
Hmm.
Because Jason, like both of us are very okay with being alone too. Like we have no problem like spending time by ourselves or with each other. But a lot of times I always like describe it like as like there has to be a balance, right? It can't always
Sure.
just be you by yourself. Like you should try to like mingle in some fashion. So I would always be like, come on, dude, come on. We're gonna go. We got invited.
Mhm.
We're gonna go. We're gonna have a good time. And then she would always come reluctantly, but she would always have a good time. So that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, I think it definitely got worse as I got older through high school. And I definitely credit our British queen, Zoella. She was the first
Oh
person
yeah.
I'd ever seen like openly talk about having anxiety and panic attacks and
And like describing what it was
what it
like.
feels like. Yeah, because I just thought I was like, oh, I'm just shy and I'm like a weird kid. Like that's just what that means, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I remember she put out like a 30-minute video of like her first panic attack or what it meant. She's also emetophobia like me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like that. I thought I was just me that felt like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I remember watching her thing and thinking, I remember telling you, like, do you think I have this? And you're like, I've always known you have anxiety. I'm like, well,
I
John told
actually,
me.
yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, yeah, I very clearly remember that video because I remember
Mhm.
you sending it to me. I think that came out when you were in college and I was still in
No,
high
I
school.
watched it right before I moved.
Oh, okay, right before college.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was around the same timeline, but like you were like, I watched this and I feel like I know exactly what she's talking about. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I do too, dude. Yeah, that sounds pretty
That's
on brand.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hers, I think hers manifested a lot sooner, like where she
Mhm.
was like aware of it. And I think yours was like a little bit later, which as long as you are aware at some point, that's
Yeah.
all that matters. You know what I mean? It
And
doesn't
I
really
think
matter
what
the
was so
time.
nice about realizing I had anxiety was that there was nothing wrong with me. Like that's just how my
Yeah.
brain operates. So while
Yeah.
there isn't anything wrong with me, that's not a healthy way to continue living my life. So I need to, learn of new things I have to do
Yeah.
to get through it.
Well, yeah, and it's like one of those things where it's never your fault if you have it and there's nothing wrong with you if you have it, but you also shouldn't give it the power to control you, which is where
Yeah.
like your methods of coping with it come into play.
Mhm.
And I very clearly remember for like me, because mind you, like my sister and I are two sides of the same coin, but we're very different too in a lot of ways. So
Mhm.
Jason's anxiety and social anxiety was much different from mine. So for a very long time, I didn't think I had anxiety like at
Mhm.
all. I was like, yeah, that's not me. Cause like I'm not afraid to talk to strangers and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which I also think is a hindrance on like external, like, what do you call it? What do you call it when you're an introvert? An extrovert, right? So
Yeah.
extroverted people who are also anxious, I feel like it's a lot harder to like come to terms with it because you're
Mhm.
like, well, I don't have a problem going to a party by myself, or I don't have a
Sure.
problem eating in a restaurant by myself. Like that doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
But
Like,
it
I could
man
never do that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but it manifests in much different ways for me, my
Sure.
anxiety. So I remember watching which is kind of ironic because I think she's an introvert, but like I watched Ariana Grande talk about her anxiety on the Tonight Show, like
Okay.
probably when like 20, like 15, 2016, something like that.
Mhm.
I remember watching her and her talk about it, and I was all, that's how I feel sometimes, like the way she was
Mhm.
describing it. And I
I
remember
think it
being,
was 18 because that was when, Sweetener was gonna come out, right?
yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Cause then I was like, what? Like the way she was describing how she
Mhm.
feels sometimes, I was like, oh my God. Like I was literally thinking, like, and then I thought, is something wrong with me? Right.
Mhm.
Because I feel like I'm fine, but then I also feel like I'm not fine at the
Yeah.
same time sometimes, right? So I don't know. I guess they just manifest in different ways. I guess it's just per the person. There's no right or wrong way.
Yeah, and I think that that's the nice part about it becoming a well spoken about topic
Yeah.
by people I don't personally know, Zoella or Ariana Grande, but to
Mm-hmm.
see people you look up to or you love talk about having the exact same feelings, you're like, huh, that sounds
Yeah,
kind of like
exactly.
me. Like it normalizes it
Yeah,
completely.
like the
Yeah.
way she was talking about it was so palatable to a way,
Mhm.
like to an extent where I was like, that's exactly how I felt sometimes. And then I was like, what? Like I was so like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was unlocking a new level in my brain because
Yeah,
I was
for
like,
sure.
I truly never thought that. And then I thought to myself after that moment, like when I would look back, I would think about times that I was like extremely anxious and the really unhealthy ways I would cope with it.
Yeah.
So like I think a lot of times too, like my anxiety for me personally is driven by this incessant need to be perfect all the time and overachieve.
Sure.
So like when I feel like I'm failing in some way, or when I feel
Mhm.
like I'm falling behind, when I feel like I'm being left behind, like my anxiety like kicks in like really bad.
Yeah, mine is everyone hates me. Like my friend posted something about like
I mean, it's not funny, but like,
no,
yeah,
but like that's
I
what
know.
like
I'm just so aware that that's yours.
yeah.
Yeah.
I my friend posted some like a meme or something on her Instagram. I can't remember. It was something about like I just logged off with my therapist and I
Mm-hmm.
told her, how come every time I log off, I'm always like, oh my God, I hope she's not mad at me. Like that's like why I can't stand when people are mad at me or if they're upset with me or if people don't. I just always assume the meanest things are being said about me when I walk into a room. Like
Yeah.
and like people are judging me and no one's
Yeah.
ever done that to me. That's just a story I've created in my head since I was little that
Yeah.
like 28 years later I'm just now realizing is super unhealthy and I need to undo and really
Yeah.
like unravel and take a look at it.
Yeah, because it
um
holds you back from doing other
from so many
things.
different experiences and
Yeah.
things like that. And so, yeah, so like I had anxiety, like I could see throughout high school, but I think because my mom kept us so busy, we were in like every sport, we did clubs, like we did
Yeah.
club sports, like there was no time to have to think. And that's kind of how I grew up with my anxiety. Like I would
Same.
like every time I'd play a volleyball game, my mom would coach me and had me jump rope until I couldn't breathe because I would get so nervous in my games that I would
Yeah.
like be facing the opposite direction or like all of a sudden I don't know how to do anything because I'm so like frozen in fear of what are people
Yeah. It
thinking of
was
me.
like truly like Jason's anxiety of performing in front of strangers in any
Yeah.
capacity was like almost crippling to her. So
Yeah.
we like as a family, because we just didn't know like what it was at the
Yeah.
time,
They were like, what are you like? I was like,
just
it's just
chalked it
like
up to being
I just get so
nervous.
nervous. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like we would implement these exercises for Dason to do. So to almost like a animal, like you know, when you put them on the treadmill to get them really tired, or like a baby,
Yeah.
where like let them run around so they tire themselves out. That
Hmm.
was kind of like what we had to do with Dace, and it worked for like a
Yeah.
time. And then you know, and then you get older, and then you
Hmm.
realize that it's affecting other areas of your life, not just because like
Yeah.
playing sports, so it wasn't something that we had
And I didn't
anymore.
realize it was as bad as it was, or I guess it just progressively got a little bit worse when I had to live on
Yeah.
my own when I went to college, because now my
Yeah.
mom is I'm really close with our obviously our mom and with
Yeah.
you, and it's just
Mhm.
me. And so that's when I started to develop like depression and things like that. And so
Mhm.
I didn't really realize it was so bad until I was getting ready to graduate college.
Mhm.
And I would, drink, because now I'm 21. So I would drink by myself in my room, and I wouldn't talk to people, and I would cry every day, and I couldn't go to class
Yeah.
because I was so upset, like, because I was so stressed about my future. And I'm like, what am I doing after college? And it was just creating so
Yeah.
much anxiety. And then I like didn't like myself. So then I'm thinking everyone else probably thinks I'm annoying, like at school or at work. And
Yeah,
it
it's
was like
just
a
like this
never ending
endless
cycle.
cycle, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's literally just like this, cycle that feeds into itself, so you, like,
Hmm.
don't do things because you're anxious, and then you get
Yeah.
mad at yourself because you didn't do those things because you were anxious, and then you're
Mhm.
like, "Why am I feeling so anxious? And
Yeah.
now I'm a loser because I didn't do those things," and,
Hmm.
like, it's just
Everyone
like this.
probably thinks the same thing.
Yeah, everyone's probably thinking the same thing about me. Now I can't go back because they're gonna know
Mhm.
that I missed the last time. It's just like this never-ending cycle, and it's funny too because, like, to Billy, we always make this joke, like, me and Dace, but, like, I'm sure y'all have seen the movie Inside Out, right? So, you know
Oh,
how,
yeah.
like, Riley has all her emotions in
It's
her
just one
head?
of each. Yeah.
One of each, yeah, we always talk about which ones we would have,
Hmm.
right? So, like, mine how many are there? 5,
I think
right? Yeah,
there's
because there's 5
five.
senses, yeah.
Hmm.
So, like, for the 5, I would have, like 2 like, probably, like no, probably 1 sad, like, 2 fear, 1 angry, 1 happy. That's what I would
Yeah.
have.
I think mine would be three fear. Is that the
Mhm.
purple one? Right?
Yeah,
Three
yeah.
fear and then two sad.
No, not
Yeah. Well, right now, I would
right
want to
now.
change it to have like four joy and two sad. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever. But no, definitely, I would say like
Yeah.
before who I am today, I would definitely say I have a lot more fear and
Me
sad than
too, me
anything. Yeah.
too. Well, and then, like, for mine too, like I said, I didn't even really come to terms with it probably till I was, like, about to graduate from college, honestly, like, when I was in my early 20s is probably when I really started thinking about it, like, or
Yeah.
understanding it because it would, like, almost thought it was normal to, like, be so overworked and so exhausted and so stressed
Stress.
that I would
Yeah.
sleep for like 3 days straight, and I thought that that was normal. So,
Yeah.
like and I remember too, when I started working at the NFL, right,
Yeah.
and that job was just absolutely rotting me from the inside
Hmm.
out, not just the drive, but also just the whole toxic environment in
Yeah.
general. Um, I would literally like I would tell my family like, "Hey, like, I'll see you guys on Friday, Saturdays because I worked, like, 5 days a week.
Hmm.
So I would work Monday to Thursday, all day Friday, sleep. I would sleep all day. I would literally sleep till, like, 2 p.m. I'd wake up, I'd drink a little bit of water, go back to sleep, and then I would wake
Hmm.
up, and it was, like, 8 PM. And
Yeah.
then Billy would come home, and he would say, "Did you eat today?" And I'd be like, "No." And then my mom would be like, "Oh, I think she's tired from the drive." And then my sister would be like, "No, dude, she's depressed."
It's sad.
And yeah,
Yeah.
she's sad. That's what she would tell my mom, and my mom was like, "You think?" Because they never saw me, because obviously I don't live at the house with my
Hmm.
parents. So then my sister started calling me all the time to, like, ask me how I was feeling and stuff, and I was like, "I mean, I'm good. I think I'm good." I was not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all. And I think I was just, I think sometimes my brain's about distractions. So, like, when it starts feeling like that, I try to distract myself with other things, which is an unhealthy way of coping with it.
Hmm.
But,
'Cause it's one thing to know you're sad or anxious, but it's another to, like, continue, like it's
it
almost like continuing a cycle of abuse against yourself, like, you're like,
yeah.
"No, I can keep living like this," and it's
Oh
completely
my god,
unhealthy,
yeah.
and you just keep
Mhm.
doing it because even though like, after I finished school, like, my mom was like, "You have to come home," like, because I would call her,
Yeah.
especially leading up to the end, I would call her then I'm telling her, like, "I literally am just, like, I've never been this sad before, I have to come home," like, so she
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, come home." And so I moved home, and being around my little brother and my parents, and even you were about to graduate, so I was like so excited for Drew to move back. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I just gotta wait another year. Drew's gonna come back, and so I think it started to get worse because my coping was food. I would binge eat
Mhm.
and drink and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
just not in a way that was healthy to my brain or my body. And
Yeah.
then
And it's that cycle again, right? Where you like
yeah.
would eat and then you'd feel guilty and then
And
you'd
then I
start
would
being
eat
mean to
again.
yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until 2019 when we had decided to quit our jobs and work full time in our
Yeah.
family's business because I couldn't take it anymore. I remember Drew was like, just wait, like we can quit at the same time. And I just put in my 2 weeks because we worked together and I was
Yeah,
like,
I'm not even joking. Like, I still remember the conversation to this day because when Daisy
mhm,
told me she was quitting the job that we both had because we worked at the same place,
yeah,
and we loved the people we worked with, and we
yeah.
made really good money, but it was just like it was like so harmful, mentally and very stressful.
And
So
just like it was unfulfilling because I
yeah, it
was
was
like, we both went
unfulfilling.
to
Yeah,
school for certain things. Like, I don't want
yeah,
to do this. Like, I
yeah.
feel stuck. And
And I
yeah,
still remember like I was telling her, I was like, dude, like just wait it out. Like just wait, like I'll quit with you in like a few months. And then she was like, dude, I'm not gonna make it. That's all she told me. And then I was like,
so I
and
didn't
then
even tell her. I just put in my two
yeah,
weeks. So
yeah. Then I started
I
laughing and she was like, I'm being serious, dude. I'm not gonna make it.
I'm
I
literally
have
not
to
gonna make
leave.
it.
I have to
Yeah.
leave. And I was like, okay. And then, once I understood, because she explained it to me in a much more detailed way how she was feeling, I was like, oh my God, dude, like, I don't want you to feel like that. Like, that's
Yeah.
terrible. And then the absolute irony of that happening, and then I started working at the NFL, and that's what happened to me too.
Yeah, same
I
thing.
was
Cause
like, dude,
yeah, when we worked
I'm
at our job,
dying.
I had Fridays off and I think
Yeah.
Drew had Thursday, Fridays off. So she always had like one more day than I
No,
can't remember.
Fridays, Saturdays.
Oh, okay. Oh no, I mean when
Yeah.
we both worked together. Anyways,
Oh, yeah. We
he
always
had
had
like,
Fridays off.
yeah,
Yeah.
so but she would be like, woohoo, I'm going to the beach. And then I would be sleeping all day because I was so
Yeah.
depressed and I was sad
Yeah.
and I felt unfulfilled and I like was just like it was like I felt embarrassed about how I felt. So then
Yeah.
I quit, then Drew quit, then Drew gets the NFL, and then she's acting the same way. I was telling my mom, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I
It
would
was,
sleep until
yeah.
3 and then eat an entire pizza by myself, which is, you good to do when you're not in a bad mood,
Yeah.
like so I was like,
Not
but
when
I
it's like
am.
a way of coping with how
Yeah,
sad
like,
you
but if
feel.
you're like, I want to eat a whole pizza, eat a whole pizza. But I would literally do it just because I was so upset and sad and unhappy and
Yeah.
anxious, and it was awful. And so,
Yeah. And I literally like went down this like really terrible spiral when I was working at the NFL, like, because that job was just affecting me so terribly
mhm,
mentally. And it was really weighing on my confidence as like a worker, as
mhm.
like a journalist, as like someone, women in sports. Like it was just affecting everything I believed were the core things of my personality. So it
Yeah,
was like weighing even heavier on me because I was like, maybe I was never meant to do this. Like maybe I am not talented enough to be in this profession. Like maybe they're right. Like that's why I say all the time, like that's the worst thing that job did to me was make me doubt myself and my
sure.
capability and my just overall competence. Like it literally made me
Yeah,
think that I was the most incompetent and incapable person ever,
yeah,
and that was the worst. And I, as we all know, I don't feel like that about myself ever.
yeah, sure.
I've never felt that way about myself. So
Mhm.
having to experience that firsthand and then suffer through it for like 10 fucking months was just
Yeah.
awful. Like truly. And then Dason, like, she smelled it from like a mile away.
So I think for me, like once we quit our jobs and I was able to focus on just myself, and our family business is so like easily adaptable to schedules and stuff like that, that I wasn't like locked to a desk or anything. I was
Yeah.
able to take like a good year to really look at who I am and what do I want to do and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then really take care of my anxiety and see like for me, like I don't the most if I could give anyone tips is like because if you have anxiety, is to look for different signs that you're having anxiety. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you live
Yeah.
for so long with your anxiety, you're like, oh, it's just another
Accustomed to
day.
it.
Yeah.
Well, and
Whereas like
that's
you
why I
can see
thought,
it kind of building up and leading to it.
oh
Or I'm
my
like,
God, yeah.
for me, I'm like, oh, if I'm in my room too much, I'm like, that's weird. I don't usually do that when I'm happy, you know?
Well, yeah, that. And also, like, that's how you helped me diagnose that in myself.
Yeah.
Because I would tell you, like, I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with me. And then I would describe things that I would do or things that I would, ways I would deal with issues and stuff. And
Mhm.
you were like, yeah, dude, that's not, that's not normal.
It's not
That,
good.
well, and
Yeah.
another great example of it is like when I started dating Billy, who has been like so wonderful in helping me like when I have bad mental health days. But like when I would describe to him like how I would cope with things or how I would deal with things or how I would feel about stuff, he would like watch me describe it and then he'd be like, yeah, there's no way. Cause he's like the most simple person. Like
Yeah.
his he I honest to God wish, but like he doesn't keep anything in his head that does not serve him ever. Like if
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything, if it doesn't,
Man, if only.
I fucking wish, dude.
I would be the richest person alive if I could
Dude,
do
I
that.
wish all the time that I could. I literally describe it as like, you know, when you like take off your Apple Watch and you plug it in, that's like his brain. He takes it off, plugs it in, it wipes the brain of anything that happened that day, and then he wakes
Mhm.
up fresh. Like he's like, ding, and he wakes
Yeah.
up fresh slate, nothing bad happened, nothing bad's
Mhm.
happening, just existing. And I was like,
Yeah,
dude, I fucking wish, man. I
me
wish I was
too.
like, I wish it could be
Dang.
that way so bad. I was like,
Right?
I envy you so terribly.
Mhm.
But he was like, well, see, that's why we're a good balancing act because like you care about I always just say I care about everything and he doesn't care
Mhm.
about anything. Like that's
Yeah.
like not like anything, but just like nothing stresses him out
Yeah.
and everything stresses me out.
Mhm.
So we like are a good balance for each other in that sense because he can talk me off the ledge when I'm
Yeah.
like when I spin out about like my tire being low on my car.
Yeah, or you lost your favorite eyelash brush or
Oh my
something.
God,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, stuff like that sends me into a spiral. But anyways, I just remember telling Dason, like describing to her, like, what does this sound like to you? Like I would describe to her how I deal with stuff or how I feel. And then she was like, that sounds like anxiety to me. And I'm
Yeah.
all, do you think? Like I just because I've just been that way my whole life, like you said. So I just
Yeah,
thought it
and you
was
just don't think
normal.
about it as that because it wasn't talked about when we were growing up, and now
Yeah.
that it is, you're like, huh, maybe
Yeah.
I got one of those things, you
Yeah, like
know?
I literally, when I watched that Ariana Grande thing, she had described having a panic attack, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, my idea of what panic attacks were before I had understood where I am with my mental health and stuff was like something like catastrophic, like something like, you know what I mean? So horribly awful, like,
Mhm.
like almost you need to go to the hospital. Like, that's how I saw it in my head prior to like my understanding of it. And then I realized that not everybody's panic attacks look the same and they
Mhm.
don't manifest the same way. So,
Yeah.
like, the way she described her first, like, anxiety slash panic attack, I was all, because I like just had one and I didn't know what it was. So I thought maybe I was going to pass out or something. And I still remember where I was too. I was like, we were in a restaurant and I had never been to the restaurant before. And for everyone who knows, like I'm a planner, right? So like if I go to an unknown place, I just pick what I feel like is what I've had before, just in case it tastes bad. You know what I mean? I don't like to venture out.
Mhm.
So I like was trying to
So
pick
a
some.
chicken sandwich.
Yeah. I was trying to look for something familiar to me, but I
Yeah.
couldn't I couldn't read the menu because I have shit eyesight. So I couldn't read the menu. Then Billy left because he had to go to the bathroom. So I was standing there by myself trying to read this menu and they were going, hello, like, do you want to come? Hello, next, next, next. And then I was like, like I literally had like a nervous breakdown just standing there. So then I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. So I ran to the bathroom and I just sat in the stall and cried for like 20 minutes, just sitting
Mhm.
in there crying. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, I was literally thinking, like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And then I remember I called my sister when I got home and I described it to her. And she was like, that sounds like a panic attack, dude. I think you just got anxious. And I was all, what? Like, I was like, I
Well, and it
don't do
doesn't have
things
to be
like
like just in
that.
that moment. Like mine
Mhm.
like build up over time where I'm like crying about something that happened to me 3 weeks ago that I was like, that didn't bother me. And then 3 weeks later I'm crying about it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why I was like, no. I was telling her, I was like, no, dude, no, because that's never happened to me before. And you're all, that's just never, that specific thing has never happened to you
Yeah.
before. That doesn't mean that it hasn't happened to you. And I was like, huh? Like I was so
Yeah.
like, bro, what? I was just
Mhm.
so enthralled by it. And then I feel like I remember that so clearly because I think it was important that I recognized what was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
And
could see
then
it better.
see it ahead of time so it doesn't have to
Yeah.
build up to a panic attack and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, like at one point in my life, like I would just like naturally have one like every day. Like I could
So
like
bad.
I know I could like go to the bathroom at work and have a quick I would have a quickie and then I'd get back to my desk and finish my shit. Like it was like I was like living with it. It was so unhealthy. Remember we used to talk about it all the
Yeah.
time? Like I could go to
Yeah.
a business meeting and be like, I'll be right back and go to my car, have a full blown panic attack, and then come back in like, all right, like what are we doing? Like
Yeah,
so it was just
dude.
so unhealthy. And I used to like it's like I would like pride myself on it because I was all I knew. So I'm like, yeah, like that's just another day. That's how it is, and I'll get
Yeah.
through it. So it
And it's
wasn't a
really sad too to have to live like that, to like have to like
yeah, and
make your
it's
peace with it.
so unhealthy
Yeah.
long run in the long run.
Mhm.
Because now, like
Mhm.
I think I haven't. Oh, what are we like 14 days into the new year? I think I've had like
Yeah.
maybe one panic attack, and it was really small. But
Yeah.
I think I just have a better grip on it, like seeing it ahead of time that I can like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Like I saw a TikTok that said like, do you hate your body or did you just have a bad day today? So I kind of compare it with my mental health. Like, do you feel anxious or you just have a really shitty day and you need to look at that because I'm
Yeah.
such a I tend to be kind of passive aggressive where I just let things build up over time and then
Yeah.
it's like too late and then everything makes me mad and
Mhm.
I'll notice like I have the best memory in the world. So if I'm having trouble remembering something, I'm like, oh, my anxiety must be bad. So I need to
Yeah.
read or I need to be off my phone way more. I look at my report every Sunday on my phone at my screen time. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, if that's like out of control, that's why I don't feel good. Like little things like that I'm paying attention to, like how much water
Yeah.
have I had today? How much
Yeah.
caffeine have I had
Yeah.
today?
Have I
Like,
gone outside?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Did I go on
Yeah.
a walk to when's the last time I left my house to go to the store? Like things like
Yeah.
that, especially
Oh
during the
yeah.
pandemic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I was just about to say like the pandemic was probably like another thing too, because I remember at the start of the pandemic, I because I get so nervous about stuff, I was so stressed about things like
Yeah.
all the time. When I knew that the pandemic was happening, like they had entered the first lockdown,
Yeah.
I was so anxious. And I always know when I'm really anxious too, because I have nightmares, like really vivid
Yeah.
nightmares, like terribly vivid nightmares. And so I was having nightmares like every night. And I was like, this is awful. Like I couldn't sleep. And then when I'd wake up, I would just cry. And then it was horrible. And then
Yeah.
I remember like Billy, he's so sweet. Like he was just trying to help me. So he was like, why don't we do, because I remembered reading at one point that like implementing some sort of routine before you go to sleep can really help manage if you have really bad anxiety before you go to sleep. Which,
Yes. Well, routine is key for
oh
anxiety in
yeah,
general, but
morning,
if
morning and night.
yeah, but if it
Like
gets really, really bad at nighttime, then most especially, yeah.
yeah, so that's where it was the worst, was at night
Mhm.
at that time. So we started doing a routine. So he would like, I would like go shower, do skincare, like take my time, right?
Mhm.
Then I would come back in the room and then I would like light a candle, right? Turn on my nice lights, and then we would lay down. And then he's like, why don't we, because I had just bought Disney Plus, remember it like had just come out.
Mhm.
So Billy has seen like no Disney movies in the past, and we've seen them all. So he was like, why don't we pick a Disney movie every night that I haven't seen and then we'll watch it before we go to sleep.
Yeah.
It changed the game for me because I was
Yeah.
like on a routine every single night. I knew
Mhm.
exactly what to expect. And so it started like easing me out of that really dark hole that I had fallen into. Because it just feels like you're constantly falling and you can't get a grip on anything. You can't
Yeah.
grab anything. You can't stop. Like it almost feels endless and like hopeless, which is, I
Mhm.
think, what contributes to the depression part of it too, which
Yeah.
is horrible. So, I
Yeah, no,
started
like it's
doing
literally never gonna get better, like over and
yeah,
over
yeah,
again in
and
your
it
head.
just
Yeah.
feels like, like in Alice in Wonderland when she's like falling, it just feels like you're falling forever and you can't stop it. Like there's just nothing you can do. You're just floating and
Yeah.
falling
Mine just
forever.
feels like I'm gonna be sad forever.
Yeah, see,
I
like
will
that's how
never there's just five sads inside my brain. That's it.
yeah. So then I like once I started doing that, I started doing a morning routine. Like stuff that really helps too is like if you make your bed, right? Open
Oh,
your
dude,
windows, open your
that's
blinds.
the biggest piece of
Yeah.
advice. Making your bed. My bed's not made right now because I'm doing laundry, but that is
Yeah.
going to bed. Like so my mom always says, she quotes that one. I think it was a TED talk where he's like, even if you have the worst day ever and you come home to a made bed, at least you did one thing right.
There you
At the end of
go.
the day, I
Yeah, and I
love
started,
making my
what's
bed.
funny? I started making my bed in college because my best friends in college, every single one of them always made their bed. And like I
Yeah.
never grew up like that, so I was like, word? Like
We would try for like a week. So we shared a room on our little
yeah,
twin beds that we
we
had, and
would
we would try,
try.
and then we'd be like, it's fine.
Yeah, and then I was like I would see them do it, and then when I shared a room with, like, my best friends, I would be like, "Oh, I can't not make mine, that
Yeah.
looks shitty." So then I would make mine, and then I just got into a habit of it, and then when I started doing a routine, I was like, "Okay, this has to be part of my routine, like,
Yeah.
I have to make my bed, I have to light a candle, I have to open my blinds so sun comes in,
Yeah,
open the
crack my
windows."
window,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, drink water in the morning, like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
started, like, doing this routine, like, constantly morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, just
Mhm.
so I always, like even if I got nothing done that day,
I did
I d
my
yeah,
routine.
I did my routine, yeah, I started
Yeah,
journaling, I started
yeah.
reading a lot more because I
Mhm.
hadn't read in forever, so, like, those are all, I think, like, key things that you can start now before you start making, like, major moves, like, if you wanna go to
Or
therapy, if
quit
you
your
wanna take
job or yeah,
yeah, quit
just
your
like
job, or
little
if you
things you could do right now that are free, do
yeah.
those. Start off
And
with
they
those.
give you some sense of accomplishment when you
Productivity.
yeah, productivity, yeah, because when you feel like that, you feel so unproductive, like, you feel so unmotivated to do
Yeah,
anything, and then you beat yourself up about being unproductive because 'cause
yeah.
you're like, "I didn't do anything today.
Mhm,
I'm a big loser, like, look at
mhm.
me, I'm the worst," like, blah, blah, blah.
Everyone thinks it.
Yeah, you're like, everyone's seeing me be unproductive even though you
Mhm.
stayed in your house all day and no one saw
Yeah.
you. That's another thing too, like, I'll, like, sleep a lot, like, I'll stay in my pajamas all day, won't change. That's another
Mhm.
part of your routine too, like, change out of your
Clothes,
pajamas,
yeah.
right? Put
Brush
on
your
a
teeth.
yeah, brush your teeth, wash your face, brush your hair, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, whatever that looks like. So that's